I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, I'm getting shot at, all of these things. It slows down. I don't want chaos anymore, though. My body cannot handle it anymore. My body at 42 is saying enough. The cortisol the spikes, all of this stuff needs to stop, because what I truly want is calm. I want to wipe out the multi-generational traumas that I've experienced and start anew.
Welcome to Erase PTSD Now, the podcast, erasing the silence. Here we bring trauma out of the shadows and into the conversation. You'll hear real stories, survivors, veterans, clinicians, researchers. Together we'll explore the healing treatment and the science behind the stellate ganglion block. This isn't just another podcast. It's a movement, and one that demystifies trauma, elevates unheard voices, and inspires action.
So today we're joined by Matthew McDonell, a veteran and the founder of Next 18, a national nonprofit supporting veterans and first responders through golf-based solutions. Matt has real lived experience navigating trauma recovery and the challenge of rebuilding life after service and PTSD. So to start us off, please tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Coleen. I'm Matt McDonell. I'm 42. I live in Wisconsin. I'm originally from Michigan. I served in the United States Army as an airborne infantryman from 2011 till just at the end of 2015. Deployed to Afghanistan in 12-13 with 191 Cav, part 173rd. Medically retired at the end of 15. And ever since, I've been back in Wisconsin, ran a lawn and snow company here, sold that, and then started Next 18 in 21.
Been dedicated to Next 18 since then, huh?
Yeah, realistically, I've probably been dedicated to Next 18 my whole life. I built what I needed. So, yeah.
Good. All right, so tell us about Next 18. How'd you plan it? What was your vision? What started that?
When I was medically retired in 2015, I came home. I think I did what most vets do. I thought everything was going well. I was highly functioning. I started a business. I used part of my GI Bill to get my MBA. Then I went back with folk rehab and got my master's in social work. I was married. I was doing everything properly. So I thought. What I wasn't doing was paying attention to the meds that the VA and the military had me on. I was pretty emotionally numb. I was not present. And when the VA approached me about pulling me off of these medications, benzodiazepines and Ambien in 2018, I did what I was told to do, went cold turkey after 2 weeks. And 2 weeks after that, I put a gun in my mouth and was ready to kill myself because I was in so much pain. It took 2 years to incrementally titrate off of these meds at the same time, from 20 milligrams a day for both down to nothing. I had to sell my business. At the time, I had roughly 10 employees. I couldn't do both. And that'll come full circle down the road. I couldn't take care of myself and run a business, and I couldn't take care of other people at the same time. I had to choose. Sold the business, my marriage ended. And while I was going through all of that, an organization reached out to me who I had been in touch with because of the medical retirement before I got out of service. I don't know why I decided to go, but I went to a golf camp and subsequently went to, I think, 4 or 5 other camps with that program over the next 36 months. And what I noticed was you got all of these men and women together in the veteran space, or sometimes there was up to 30 of us. And rec therapy was really powerful. And it did what it needed to do, especially for me. It got me out of my shell, got me out of my hole. And where I started questioning what I wanted to do, I was looking around and I was realizing, well, what's really changing? What's the stickiness of this thing? It's great in its silo, but what it's not doing is addressing the root causes of what I'm dealing with. It's a really good escape. I get a lot of free things. I get an experience. I get it paid for. I meet some people. even on the back end with meeting the people, and this is indicative of, or this is like with other organizations, not just this one, there was no call roster. I didn't know who I went with. If I didn't get their phone number while I was there, I don't know who they are. There was nothing really on the back end. What are the resources to sustain, me coming out of this hole? Because when I go home, I'm right back in it. I would argue sometimes I'm worse because I just had this great experience and I can't relive it. And golf has been my passion. I've been playing golf since I was 6 years old. And golf was the thing that, as I was coming out of this hole in 2020, after I sold my business, I took a job back at a country club in Wisconsin. And I spent 2020 playing probably 125 rounds of golf, which is a lot. Most people are lucky if they get 10 or 15 rounds a year. And I just worked in the clubhouse. I was financially secure. I was in a transition phase. I just wanted to be outside and I just wanted to be doing the thing that I had done as a child that I loved. And that's where the idea kind of came from, building Next 18. As I spent that year and getting to know the members, many of them were veterans, getting to know the owners of the course, kind of building my ecosystem back up again, I started thinking I could do this in the golf space. I don't need to do the skiing. I don't need to do the sailing or every other modality. I can do this in golf and I can do it better.
Now, when you say that, were the other experience that you did, were they sailing and
Sailing, golfing, skiing. I've also gone on some other programs, retreats where it was like a 4-day retreat, more centered around camaraderie and connection. Where Next 18 is different is we focus on the root causes. We come in over the course of 4 days and our core pillars, each day is 90 minutes. Each day focuses on this group work mentality, right? You're in a half circle. It's no different than sitting in AA if you've ever experienced that, or a group at the VA. However, it's on the driving range in nature. I say it's the most clinically sterile thing you can get in a non-clinical environment. And what we educate on is developmental trauma. So things that we experience in childhood that most of us don't really understand is causing a lot of the programming for us and the stuck points in life. And then we educate on moral injury and complex PTS. Most people, especially vets and first responders, are unaware of what moral injury is. And that's usually a big light switch conversation. And the other component and the other pillar that we educate on is relational repair, destruction and repair. How, as men and women, we run rackets, we play games, we cheat, numb, all of these things that not just vets and first responders, I would argue most adults do. We really try to inform and educate and move from victim to responsible. At the end of the day, you're an adult. What you don't know, and that's fine. But let's give you the information. You need to go home and you need to do the work.
So, okay. And you said a lot of things, and I want to back up to something and say, I'm glad you're here and thank you. And I'm glad things came to be that you saw and you rose above and you're here now. And then you talked about the moral injury, and I want to hear more about that. I'm sure everybody does, because that's a huge recognition there that you you realize that and you're doing something about it and you're leading others to also do something. And you're absolutely right. So this is deeply insightful on top of your program. So there's a whole lot we want to hear about.
All right. So I'll start with the moral injury. And it really ties into childhood trauma, in my opinion. And I can use myself as the perfect example of this. When our participants come into the camp, they take an assessment called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's 10 questions, and there's been a further edition where it extrapolates further out, but we focus on the core model. And these are questions, yes or no, 10 questions. The questions are, I was raped as a child. I was in a nuclear home where someone was incarcerated. I was physically abused. I was emotionally abused. Mother or father was an alcoholic. None of these are great. None of these set you up for a normal childhood or a normal life. And when I was learning about childhood trauma and the moral injury, it kind of happened around the same time as I was getting my master's in social work. I was introduced, and one of my placements was in a veteran facility where I was watching intensive IOP and group work. And that's where the light really turned on for me. Like, okay, this is a component that we're going to include in this thing. And the average score of a convicted felon in this country, I believe, is between a 6.5 and a 7.2 on ACEs. The average score of our participants hovers around a 4.5. So, what that says is the bulk of the people that come through our programs are dealing with multiple traumas that they experienced in childhood. And if you take it one step further, 95 to 98% of your programming as a human happens from 0 to 4. So if you're in a home and you're in a car seat and you're getting ready to leave and your parents are screaming at each other, yelling, right? Cortisol's through the roof, you're uncomfortable. You don't know what's going on as a 1-year-old, but you're absorbing all of this chaos. And how I explain this to people at our camps is, if I tell you the day you come out of your mother that the sun is pink, the sun is pink. And down the road, you go through life, and every day you look at that sun and it's pink. It's pink. And now this is a metaphor for mom is a drunk, dad is a drunk, mom is unstable mental health issues because she's a codependent for the alcoholic father. You're beaten, any number of things. You're sexually molested, all of these. Or your parents are just not present and you don't get any emotional nourishment. We call it emotional malnourishment. That is the sun is pink. You didn't do anything wrong. That is what you were born into, and that is what your body is absorbing, and that is what you're processing as this is reality. Now, at 18, someone walks in and says, hey, did you know that the sun is yellow? Your whole world is shattered. Your identity is shattered. Who you are is shattered. You don't know what. Most of the time, you're going to argue with that and say, no, that's not reality. That ties into the moral injury. So much of what happens in childhood happens. You're given these stuck points. For me, it was a lot of invalidation, unworthiness, and feeling hopeless and helpless in multiple situations. So I call those stuck points. I went to service at 24 because I didn't have any worth. I watched the movie Black Hawk Down a million times. I knew I had it in me to do what those guys, Sugar and Gordon, did. I knew I had it in me. And part of me was telling myself, if this worthless person has no worth, at least if I die, there's some value in it. And I think that resonates for a lot of the men and women that come through our program, and vets and first responders. So if you have sometimes a higher ACEs score, your general likelihood is you're going to go one of two ways in life. You're already behind the 8 ball. You're either going to end up in prison, and I can't tell you how many guys I served with and watched that joined at 18 because they were told they had to by a judge or family, because this is your last opportunity. You either go to service or you're going to prison. That's not really an option. Okay? Or you probably go to service. You do something service oriented. This comes from a place where you're a people pleaser, fixer, white knight syndrome. You're really good at taking care of people because you've probably done it your whole life. This is just walking into the same chaotic environment you've experienced your whole life. This is the sun is pink. So as we're educating, day one is moral injury, and we really paint the picture of what moral injury is, right? And moral injury, and I'm going to connect these two here in a second. Moral injury is similar to PTS, but where it differs is it does not have the startle response and the nightmares. It does not have a DSM diagnosis as well. This is more internal. How I typically explain it is acts of commission and acts of omission. So for me, when I was deployed and many things happened, there were times when I had to sit and watch it happen. Civilians got killed, green on green incidents where a teammate was shot by another teammate and it was covered up, or it was labeled as something else. As a private, an E4, and I'm watching E6s and E7s yell at each other, what am I going to do? I have to sit there and take it. We watch civilians get killed, but I was raised Lutheran, and you don't hurt civilians. And then that stuff gets covered up, and that is the story that goes up to top, right? It's morally injurious. That's not, I don't wake up and have nightmares. What I do have is a profound disgust in who I am as a human, A, because I didn't stand up and do the right thing, and B, because I allowed it to happen. Now, if you look at that from a much narrower lens, there was a lot of helplessness in those moments. Tie that back to childhood. Now you start running into these roadblocks that are multiple decades long. And this is where I usually see people getting stuck at our program. There may have been 10 different things that happen on their deployment, but usually there's one incident that resonates more with them and hits to that core wound. And if you really do the work, I believe you can tie childhood to that. You've never been able to escape that 5-year-old self that got injured. So that happens in 2 days, right? We dive off the deep end and we get into it. And then the other component of what we educate is, all right, how are you destroying your life? And how are you destroying everyone around you? Because if you don't love yourself, if you can't come to grips with what you did, do you think you're going to love anyone else? And how do you numb yourself? How do you hide from that? How do you shut that voice off at night so that you can go to bed? And in reality, most adults are dealing with this. We teach that physiologically, trauma is trauma and the body keeps score. At the end of the day, trauma physiologically fits into a box. No human is going to feel something out of here that all the other humans feel in here. Whether you're a 16-year-old civilian who's on a bus and you get raped, or you're in a firefight and 10 of your teammates get blown up, there is only so much that the body can process, and how it processes and what the outlets for that are. That's where we really start educating that, look, nobody's different. You may have been through a different experience, but the body keeps the score and the body holds that trauma just the same as everyone else. And that's where you start connecting these men and women back to the greater good and the fact that we're all just humans trying to make it through this, and no one makes it unscathed.
That is so insightful, and you apply how you lived it and how others live it in the different scenarios, and we see it, in everyday life as well. The way you say about keeping score, you're absolutely right. Now, so how did you help yourself heal before you got to this point? You were talking about going to different things and trying things and the medication. Did you find any other were you experimenting with everything? Did you try the SGB? What can you speak of?
I've gone A to Z. I've spent the last 7 years, and more so the last 2 years, really understanding who I am as an adult, who I am as a human. Again, that people pleasing, everybody else before myself. I looked at myself at 40 and I said, I don't really know who I am. What makes me happy? What fills my cup up? And I've really been diving into that lately about what part of the work that I do fills my cup up. Do I want to do the governance of the board stuff? Do I just want to do the camps? And along the way, there have been things from low grade psychedelics and psychedelic therapy all the way through full on trips in secure locations, right? Where I'm making sure I'm first where it's legal, but also where it's safe. Last year I had the treatment, the ganglion blocks, the dual blocks. All of them have had their benefit. All of them have played a part in it. And all of them allow me now to turn around and tell someone, look, I've gone through it. I've done it. I'm never going to put someone in front of something that I didn't do myself. I think where the block really worked well was I'm already walking into this thing with all of these resources, the resilience, the breathing, the meditation, taking care of myself. What worked really well for me was having both of those at the same time. Really early on, probably, I think within 45 minutes of eventually leaving to go home, day 2 of my treatment in Chicago, I was coming up the freeway in Milwaukee and someone cut me off going probably 75 miles an hour. They came from like 3 lanes over to make a pass to get on the off ramp. And I remember in the moment, my heart rate went to here because you're scared, right? You lose control in that moment, but immediately it went right back down. And I was still processing like, I should be really startled right now, but whatever the shot just did, like it shut that fight or flight down almost immediately. And I was able to stay rational versus emotional. And then I started doing some breathing, the things that I have. I think where it really worked is I don't ever think one thing should be the suture
Correct.
coupled with what I had. And that's where, doing that and going through a program like we have to have the resources, I think that's where the half-life or the efficacy of something like a shot can last substantially longer, because what it did for me in the moment was made me realize what I've been craving my whole life is calm. I operate really well in chaos, and I think that's where most vets and first responders do, right? I think we get in that tunnel vision. That's us being like, this is the chaos that I'm used to. Let me operate. I'm up. He sees me. I'm down. I'm getting shot at. All of these things. It slows down. I don't want chaos anymore, though. My body cannot handle it anymore. My body at 42 is saying enough. The cortisol, the spikes, all of this stuff needs to stop, because what I truly want is calm. I want to wipe out the multi-generational traumas that I've experienced and start anew.
So you say that. Could you do you think you could have said that the same manner years prior? Could you see your life without the chaos? Did it seem like, how could I live without chaos? Or did you not even recognize that there could be calm?
The sun was pink. Yeah. All I knew was chaos. All I've ever sought is chaos, because like what, I educate on is, if you're used to it, again, in the body, your body's craving that. It's no different than sugar. It's the dopamine. It's the thing it's no different than the phone. It's no different from the likes, the scrolling, all that. That keeps the brain going. Chaos for some of us is normal. So when you introduce calm, it's like, I've heard many clinicians talk about, when you step into that first healthy relationship, you don't know what to do. If you've been in toxic relationships your whole life, or if you've been in a toxic setting your whole life, you get calm and your brain doesn't know what to do. It's actually irrational, and your body's like, this is not normal. I need normalcy, right? And you self-sabotage. So yeah, these are things I never would have talked about pre-2020. And even now I catch myself, I'm like, wow. And I think the other thing worth pointing out is, this is not linear. We live in a society where everything needs to be now, right? If Amazon Prime could deliver it right now, everybody would pay for it, right? 2 hours or 2 days is not enough. We need it now. But that's not how this works. You didn't learn something over 40 plus years, and the audacity to think that it's going to go away in one day because you do one breathwork exercise. Like, it all takes time, and you have to. I've never been through AA. I don't drink. I know the model. I tell people at our programs, you need to live every day like it's an AA. It's 24 hours. All you need to worry about is today. That's it. Consistency, do the same thing. You have to rewire your everything, the entire way that you view the world, or don't. And I will argue that once you have the awareness and the understanding, right? Because ignorance is bliss. I often tell people at our programs, Friday is going to be the worst day of your life. Because now, man, I've been cheating on my partner. I've been drinking too much. I hit my kid. Okay, now what? I don't get to go home with you. You have to do the work on your own. And we keep the ecosystem alive on the back end with the alumni chats, and they're all in their little cohorts, and we have weekly and monthly programming. But you still got to go home. And I tell them, as much as I love you as a human, I don't care which option you choose. I can't. I cannot. By the end of this year, we'll have over 500 people from 500 alumni from every state in the country. It's not my job to carry it for all of you. So, yeah, I don't think I ever would have. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if this is where I would have been, I would have said no. But I tell you, I'm definitely I'm doing the work on myself, and through that, it resonates through the program.
You're amazing. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You're amazing.
Thank
And
you.
to have done that and built what you built. You mentioned, I know how much you've built up. I know your wait list. So you could talk about that in just 1 second. You said about filling your cup and figuring that out. You've grown so much that you're at a different part of a balance so that you don't bring that chaos back in, and you're figuring out, do you want to do this part of that part and where you can plug in help. So what help do you need?
It has been constant refinement of the system since day one. Every year, like we're in our off season right now, and last year our off season was about 4 months. This year it's just over 2.5 months, so it's getting shorter and shorter. Last year we had 11 camps. This year we have 13. So this is the first year we have more camps than months in the year. This is a scalable model to the point where you could have 100 camps a year, but we are being very intentional about taking our time. We're training 10 alumni this year in a training program to come back, men and women that have shown that they've done the work, they're ready for it, their families are in better places, they're stable. Um, it's always going to be a funding need because everything we do is provided free of charge to our participants outside of them getting from point A to point B to our camp. So if they're flying out of state, they have to cover that. We take care of everything else. Realistically, we're at that point now entering year 5 where this organization is about to take that next step, right? Many organizations don't get to the point where they bring in $500,000 a year. We did that last year. What's the next step, right? Multiple year partnerships with corporations or private groups that see what we're doing and they're saying, look, we're going to expand your runway a little longer. We've been really operating, and I use a military term, but we've been operating with a VTOL since day one. I've had almost no runway to execute. I've been vertical up, vertical down. That's it. We're at a point now where I've got maybe 100-foot runway, and we're doing pretty good, and we're growing. If we have a couple of things fall our way this year, man, I'm going to be flying 787s in left and right, and this thing's going to blow up. As we expand, we're in 8 states this year. The goal is to have clinicians in the area, have yoga instructors in the area. We want to have 12. If we're at TPC Sawgrass in Jacksonville, where we'll be in August, I want all of the participants from within 20 minutes of there. I want the yoga instructor from there. I want the clinician from there. That way, when we leave, what I didn't get at these other programs, we're already building. We've been in Jacksonville 3 years in a row now. This will be year 4. There's roughly 40 alumni that live in the 5 counties, I think they call it. They all stay in touch. And if we can continue to build that, the number one cause of suicidality is isolation. So when you go to a program and you get all these great things and you come home and you're left right back in the hole by yourself, what did we really accomplish? It's a great feel-good story, but no one's there for me when I'm back in the hole. So for us, it's amplification. It's clinicians that want to help out. Hey, can you donate 4 days a week? And really, you're only doing 3 90-minute modules. We've created our facilitator guide rails. Our content is locked in. We're at the point now where it's like, who's going to move this the next level? And the tour has been really supportive of this. We're a Birdies for the Brave organization, and we've really started picking up legs within the TPC network. There's, these are the courses that the PGA Tour owns or licenses, and there's 27, I think, globally. We're at 7 of them this year, including some of their premier locations.
Fantastic.
It keeps going and it keeps growing. I will tell you the biggest thing for me, like full transparency, I'm at a point where as an executive director, and this is where I don't mind being vulnerable, I'm spending more money sometimes in a week in an organization than I spend personally in a quarter. It terrifies me. And I have people helping, right? We have a board, we have advisors. That executive director, founder lift, man, when people talk about that mountain getting narrower and narrower as you go up, it weighs a lot on me. And to go back to your question about what fills my cup up, I don't want anything to do with the governance. I don't want anything to do really with the board. I value the board and those people are good at what they do. I really just want to be in the seat. The thing that fills my cup up is when I say something or I listen to another clinician say something and that 60-year-old curmudgeon goes like this, leans in a little bit, picks his head up, takes his arms from here to here. We got him. We got him because we've just connected with them. And for the first time, for most of them, it's the first time they've ever been validated. And now we're going to walk with them the next couple of days and really take care of them. That's what fills my cup up.
You do that. You hear it, and that I got to hear you before this, and I was amazed at that time. I'm even more amazed. What you're doing is incredible, and the growth that you've sustained is amazing. So congratulations to you. Now do me a favor. Finish this sentence. The first step to erasing the silence around trauma is.
Accepting that no one else has made it through without any trauma. You need to share. Nothing has ever gotten harder for me the more I talked about it. The worst things possible that I thought I could never share, I actually spent last year sharing little by little at camps. I got to work through my own shit with my brothers and sisters. Essentially, I created what I needed to stay alive, and I created what I needed to create the safety for myself to let my traumas out. And man, my brothers and sisters, it also showed them, okay, this guy's leading from the front. It also showed them that they could do it.
Amazing. Well, you are amazing. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for listening to Erase PTSD Now, the podcast. If you've been affected by trauma, loved someone who has, or want to be a part of real change, this space is for you. New episodes drop every third Wednesday. Follow Erase PTSD Now so you never miss an episode, and join us in the fight to erase PTSD.